Hello.
Hey, what's up, Cody?
What's up? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going?
My thoughts on Fountain of Dreams being legal.
Fountain of Dreams. This is one of the legal stages in competitive Super Smash Bros. Melee, being on the list as 1 out of 6, and one of the 5 starting stages. Fountain of Dreams is similar to Yoshi's Story, having smaller dimensions compared to others and having 3 platforms. However, Yoshi's Story is legal in doubles, and Fountain of Dreams isn't. Now why is that? This stage, while playing 1 versus 1, also known as singles, there are no problems at all. But when there are more than 2 characters on screen, the game lags. This is caused by Melee running at 60 frames per second, and if you play doubles on Fountain of Dreams, that number will dip below the 60 frame per second threshold that we need the game to run at to play smoothly.
Okay, well, the reason we don't use Fountain of Dreams for doubles is because of the lag.
Fountain of Dreams lags with 4 people.
You just couldn't play doubles on FOD because that shit would lag.
Well, I think Fountain of Dreams has to be illegal in doubles because it lags. So we don't really have much of a choice.
Similar to when you're playing someone on Slippi and the FPS drops for online play, it becomes laggy. Fountain of Dreams has water reflection effects on the floor that are causing these frame rate drops. Back in 2011, after revival of Melee 4, it seemed to be set in stone the legal tournament stages that we have today. Fountain of Dreams was considered one of those legal stages being allowed in singles, but not in the doubles event due to all of these problems. People were seeing that Fountain of Dreams was laggy and that doubles just wasn't viable on the stage. For over 10 years, we have just always thought Fountain of Dreams would never get played on in doubles. And that was the end of the discussion. But what if I told you that there is a way to play doubles on Fountain of Dreams without lag? Fast forward to 2020, with the release of Slippi, bugs were fixed to smoothen the game. Slippi is releasing to the public, putting Melee Online onto a rollback netcode and fixing lag issues, as well including other quality of life updates such as already having lagless Fountain of Dreams turned on to help computers play on the stage. We know that back in 2019 that Uncle Punch found a way to remove the reflection in the water of Fountain of Dreams to increase performance. Not only can we remove the water reflection for Slippi Online, but we can also do it for Slippi Nintendo on a Wii, giving in-person and online tournaments a chance to remove the lag Fountain of Dreams doubles has been historically known for. This means that the fix that removed the water reflection on the stage gives Fountain of Dreams an opportunity to become legal for the first time ever.
It would just be a really small stage, but I think it could potentially be viable for doubles.
I think that as long as we can consistently, both online and offline, make it so that it does not lag, even with the inclusion of ice climbers, then I think it's like totally fine as a doubles stage.
It seems that many people in the community know these changes were made, but this conversation was never brought to the surface from my understanding and research. But just because Fountain of Dreams can be legal, does that mean it should be?
Even if we wanted to, I don't know if it'd be a great double stage. It's really small. I know Yoshi's allowed, but I think having only one small stage is probably a good idea for doubles because Yoshi's already really hectic.
But it seems like it would be like a even more hectic version of Yoshi's Story. Not by a lot, though.
You're also inviting like an entire new meta of counterpick that I think would be pretty lopsided. Having 2 tiny stages in a 4-player mode.
I understand, like, for 2 people, you can kind of roll with the punches, but for 4, I think it would get a little too crazy.
I have some solutions for adding in Fountain of Dreams into the rule set, but let's see if the stage even works in doubles. There is a big factor when talking about Fountain of Dreams being legalized though. It's contingent on Slippi being played on as a standard for all tournaments. Vanilla Melee has the water reflection problems where Slippi doesn't, so I asked some of Melee's biggest TOs and community figures if they think Slippi is standard for all tournaments. I was able to get a response from head TO of Genesis, Dr. Z, stating Slippi is preferred by the community but is not always possible to run entirely due to, of course, Nintendo stepping in. Another response from head TO Max out in Washington stating yes, and each Wii should have USB with Slippi. And the next response I was able to get was from one of Arizona's head TOs and community members, Violence or Eric Lee, who has helped at many majors and summits stating the community currently uses Slippi as a standard.
The most common piece of hardware used in Melee tournaments, as far as I know, are Wii's, right? Those are the most common option at majors, and they're the cheapest option locally, so most locals, I think it's a more common setup at locals.
Though you can get Slippi to work on a GameCube, it seems much easier of a standard to have a Wii to be used for all setups at tournaments, like at majors. Wii's are cheaper, easier to store, and most of all, a more powerful system than a GameCube. Ever since Slippi was released in 2020, the community has tried to use it as a standard for all tournaments since everyone uses it to play online. Now that we know that Slippi is a standard for all tournaments, let's actually test to see if Fountain of Dreams would have any problems.
I think there's a way of disabling the lag through a code by making it so that the reflections no longer work.
You can like get rid of the water graphic, and so
Yeah.
I know that basically gets rid of the lag, so you can do that. But I just never really thought about doing it on doubles on Slippi, because I'm never just like, let's play doubles on Fountain of Dreams. I don't know. I just haven't done it. So that's kind of interesting.
Before we even talk about adding in the stage for rule set, did the bug fixes removing the reflection from Fountain of Dreams actually work, causing the stage to have no lag? Based on all of the testing my friend Box and I conducted, there are no frame delays at all when playing doubles on Fountain of Dreams with Slippi. I even have footage of myself and 3 other friends all playing doubles on Fountain of Dreams, where we all are playing Ice Climbers with no problems. Ice Climbers would be the character that could make it lag the most, adding in a whole other body and chaos to the stage, making it lose frames. Ice Climbers, though, can only be controlled through one character. They are attached at the hip with the CPU. The main one is Popo and is accompanied by his companion Nana. The reason this needs to be known is because Ice Climbers can bring in a whole other body and set of moves to Fountain of Dreams that will be reflecting into the floor twice as much as any other character. The real problem with the reflection is when Ice Climbers use their Blizzard attack. The particles from this move being shown in the reflection really can cause the game to lose frames, as it is a whole lot for the game to handle. But if we remove the reflection, would it run smooth? This test here was the maximum output we can think of. If the game can withstand a maximum test, it should have no problem running normal doubles. Based on my testing for online and in person, it held our test just fine, not losing any frames, and felt completely good to play on. Now that we know it's possible for the stage to be added into doubles, we can now talk about what it could look like adding it in. There are a lot of complications to the melee scene that go into a rule change. For example, the most recent rule set change as of recording this video was the implementation of Pokemon Stadium being forever frozen for competitive play, unless Nintendo steps in. It isn't an easy feat, changing the rules in a 22-year-old competitive game. Unlike Pokemon Stadium being frozen, this would be adding an entirely new stage to the list, changing the banning system for doubles, and playing on a stage everyone thought wouldn't be possible. Going into the banning system, doubles is known to having 5 legal stages. It works on a 1-2-1 banning style, and adding in a new stage would change that, making it more like singles where one stage would need to be a counterpick that wouldn't be available until Game 2 and onward. But before we decide on the banning system, we need to see the 3 solutions for what could happen with the double stages. 1. Doing nothing at all and keeping doubles the way it is. 2. Replacing Yoshi's story with Fountain of Dreams due to it being bigger. Yes, Fountain of Dreams is a bigger stage, barely, even though some people think that Yoshi's story is overall a larger map compared to Fountain of Dreams. It may seem bigger due to the way the platforms are positioned, being more towards the ledge, opening up the center of the stage. This allows for a less cramped feeling as well as having bigger platforms in general on Yoshi's. The blast zones are also a huge difference on the stage, with Fountain of Dreams towering Yoshi's in comparison. Some think adding in another small stage takes away from doubles as it is just chaos. So if we were to have a small stage, why not make it be Fountain of Dreams since it's bigger in so many aspects?
Yoshi's is like the stage like you go to if like you find that the other team is like outclassing you. Have you ever had that happen where you're like, man, these 2 players are just better than me. I'm going to take them to Yoshi's because random stuff happens way more often on Yoshi's, and I'm just going to gamble and hope that the random stuff ends up in my favor.
And if Fountain of Dreams is bigger and can be more chaotic, wouldn't it be the best option if we only wanted one small stage for doubles?
You bring up a good point. Like, if we're gonna only have one small stage, why Yoshi's and not Fountain? I don't have a great answer for that. Like, Fountain's side platforms moving definitely leads to like a lot of really interesting play with like edge cancels and fun stuff. I think it could lead to some insanely unique situations. So does Randall, but I think the higher blast zones in Fountain are generally preferred for doubles balance.
I think like if you were to add FOD and take away Yoshi's, it would only give floaties who like typically die off the top more room to do, you know, their thing. Not to say that like floaties deserve nerfs, because like if anything, Fox deserves the nerf, and like Yoshi's story kind of buffs Fox in that way. On the FOD, it's like a little more cramped. Obviously, you could still make it work, but you know that's just kind of like where my head's at.
As someone who believes that Double Fox is toxic, I am in favor of FOD. I think the Double Fox is like bad for doubles. The best way to fight against Double Fox is to like have small stages so that other teams that rely on being close to each other and working together. A lot of teams get a lot worse when they're split up. And Double Fox just gets to run all around the stage and do whatever they want. FOD would help with the overall balance of Double Fox versus the field.
And the third solution would be Fountain of Dreams as the counterpick, similar to how Final Destination is picked in singles. Doubles has never had a counterpick with the stage selection unless you mention Congo Jungle. Congo Jungle is a very big stage that would be perfect for doubles, but there are a lot of problems for it within the community. There have been tournaments in the past with Congo Jungle, however, many people had more cons about the stage than pros to keep it as a legal stage. The stage overall is too dark, making it very hard to see certain characters. Congo Jungle also has a different stage layout with platforms compared to the other legal ones. The main stage itself has a weird dip just asking for some wonky plays to happen. The bottom of the stage allows for any character to come up through the stage, where that can't be done in any other current legal map. And that, at the bottom under the stage, is a rotating barrel that can save players and launch them back onto the stage to save them, making the competitive scene take the stage out due to its many different hazards and taking away from competitive play. Unlike Congo, Fountain of Dreams stage hazards are limited. The only problem that could come up is the platforms rising up and falling down at random times, allowing for some jank to happen, like Peach down smashing, racking up insane amounts of percent when getting under the platforms.
The thing that I just don't like about FOD is just that the platforms are like inconsistent. It would just get crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine a scenario where the platform is slightly above the ground and Peach is on it and does a down smash and clips your neck and you take 60 for it. Like, you know, it's just too inconsistent for people to play on.
But this is where the idea of a true counterpick comes into doubles. Melee doubles doesn't have a true counterpick like in singles. Let me elaborate. Singles has a stronger counterpick meta due to the flow of the game. There really isn't camping or timeouts in doubles unless you play like this for some reason, but singles is notorious for some really hard counterpicks, being Marth versus Space Animals on FD, Ice Climbers taking anyone on FD, Fox taking Puff to Stadium, and so on. Doubles has that to an extent, but the counterpick meta isn't nearly as hard. Think of a double Jigglypuff team on Dreamland. Wow, that is a crazy busted team in counterpick. But what the veteran doubles players know is that it really isn't that good because you just knock one Puff away and double team the other one. On paper, it looks so good. Two Jigglypuffs that live forever on Dreamland, but it isn't nearly as hard of a counter like in singles. So adding in Fountain of Dreams could be a legitimate counterpick that can bring a lot to the doubles meta.
I say run it. Just have Fountain of Dreams, dude. Like, you know, I feel like having another stage would be kind of cool. I think a little change here and there is totally fine to kind of spice things up. And I think, you know, having a little something like Fountain being another counterpick, that's just something kind of fun to add.
2 of your 3 wins being, you know, small stages in a best of 5 seems rough. You could also theoretically come up with a rule if you really wanted to, which says only one small stage can be counterpicked by. You can only win on one of the 2 small stages. It's like Dave's stupid rule, but it's like with small stages. It's like small stages stupid rule, which is you can only win on a small stage once. That's just the rule.
If you didn't already know, Dave's Stupid Rule is a gentleman's agreement to play on a stage that one player has already won on within a set. Similar to that, it would be in doubles, one team cannot take their opponents and win on a small stage twice within a set is what Blur is trying to say here. Otherwise known as Small Stages Stupid Rule. There is one glaring factor to all of the information provided previously though, and that is Nintendo. In all seriousness, we need to talk about Nintendo.
But the thing with that is, of course, now we're dealing with like Nintendo and stuff, like because that's a visual change. If you take the reflections off Fountain of Dreams.
Let's say Nintendo doesn't exist, I'm down. The more things be changed that lets Nintendo kind of look at like, well, now they're changing this and this and this. I think the more you're kind of inviting or the kind of poking the bear, and I'd really rather not do that, especially given that we've had so many things shut down already because of it. I think that it's such a small thing to have Fountain be legal in doubles that it's not worth it. To me, if you look at what you gain from it, you gain another stage in doubles. I don't really think that's worth potentially pissing off Nintendo again.
A lot of people have all these really cool fixes, these ideas for fixes in the game. Problem is, there is a company that sponsors our biggest tournaments and watches what happens. The biggest doubles events for the most money happen at these super majors, right? If we're going to make a rule set change, then we want to think about, can we run this at, Genesis, Big House, or whatever you want to talk about, can we do it there? And if the answer is no, then it's like, then why do we want to legalize it if we aren't going to do it at our biggest events? If you had doubles with FOD and, the ground is opaque, that's a problem. But, one of the things that you can do, potentially, is, because Slippi is used to stream, right? You might be able to have the TV itself have non-reflection, but then, because you're relaying all the inputs to the streamer's emulating Slippi natively, right? They could have regular FOD with reflections on. But the problem is, Nintendo has reps in the audience, so they can look at the screen that the players are playing on and be like, wait, FOD doesn't have any water on it. And it becomes the whole thing. Nintendo watches our tournaments and goes to them in person. So when you think about fixes, they have to be done with full stealth.
The last thing that Eric said really stuck with me. Was all of my testing and research a dead end? Not being able to make physical changes to the game is a lot bigger of a task considering Fountain of Dreams is historically known to have lag. We at least answered some questions for why we can't make any modifications physically to Melee. But with knowing Slippi as a standard for all tournaments, let's already work with what we have without making any changes. I went back into the lab for Slippi on my Wii, and thus began doing tests no one has done before. I did all of the same tests, and I wasn't having any problems even with the reflections on. I couldn't believe how smooth it felt. It seemed like there was no lag when I played doubles on Fountain of Dreams. So why is it working all of a sudden with reflections? I have no idea. So I reached out to the creator of Slippi himself and asked him. Fizzy wasn't even really sure why, but said this was his best guess. It has to do with Melee being played on Nintendo running with a Wii on a higher clock speed in comparison to vanilla Melee on a Wii or GameCube. Not knowing what that meant, I asked a very reputable person in the community as well, Practical Task, and he had no idea either, referring back to Fizzy. I was really taken back by their responses because even the creator didn't know why this was happening, so I began doing more testing on the stage. I did the same tests as earlier, but this time with the mirror reflections on. I got 4 ice climbers all on Fountain of Dreams blizzarding each other. Sorry for the quality, we needed to do these tests off of a game capture card as recommended by one of the other Slippi developers. We did that and I didn't notice any lag, so I decided to break it down frame by frame to see if we were getting any drops. Knowing Melee is 60 frames per second and using Melee's timer, I started us right before everyone blizzards, which is at 6 minutes, 50 seconds, and 78 milliseconds. I stopped the clock exactly 1 second later during the most hectic time. I put this footage into my editing program and counted exactly how many frames were in this 1 second of Melee gameplay. To my surprise, it was 60 frames on the dot. I looked at the timer in Adobe Premiere, which was 1 second later. Both Adobe and the Melee clock lines up, meaning there were no frame drops. So I checked again. I did the exact same test, but did a 2-second test instead of a 1-second test, and there were still no problems. Thinking this was the maximum, I was baffled that this worked. Let me really try to push the boundaries though. I got 4 Roys and did a fully charged neutral B, and with the same testing method, I might have had frame drops, but it's hard to tell. Let me explain why. I remember seeing an old Melee video talking about the Melee timer. The video goes over that the Melee in-game clock could have anywhere from 1 to 3 milliseconds of a buffer window. So we have to take the information I just provided with a grain of salt. I asked Practical Task about my method and that's how he would do it, which is a great sign since one of the most knowledgeable people in Smash back up this test. So going back to my Roy example, I was able to use this method to prove that there isn't any frames of lag, but I also noticed that within the same 3 frames, the Melee clock timer is at the same time, being 7 minutes, 19 seconds, and 83 milliseconds. Each time the blue line moves to the right, I'm progressing in the video by 1 frame. Notice how the video above, it still has the same time. So it might be going through that 1 to 3 milliseconds of a buffer window. I'm not sure. Of course, this being the most extreme case, I wanted to try and see what the game could take, and I was even more shocked at this next trial. I did the same test on Yoshi's Story and I was able to get a frame drop here. I don't really know what's going on, but maybe it really is just that buffer window. Based on these tests, we know that Fountain of Dreams really isn't a problem unless you truly are doing something that will make the game drop frames. I tried a more realistic scenario in doubles where each team had an ice climbers that could blizzard each other. Still no problems. However, there was one test that did have one frame drop. It was when we had 4 ice climbers all use their ice block attack on different parts of the stage. This was the only realistic scenario where I could get a frame drop with ice climbers. Even if there was a frame of lag, I don't even think the ice climbers would be actionable anyway. If a double ice climber team ran into another ice climber team and they all happened to ice block at the same time, I think the least of our worries would be the 1 frame of lag. Was Slippi the savior of Fountain of Dreams doubles? I don't know. That's up for the community to decide. The purpose of this video was to spearhead a discussion. I just wanted to give the stage a fair shot at being legal since we run the technology to do so. There are more trials that need to be ran before solidifying it as a stage. Fizzy and Practical Task told me about other ways to double check my work, but I don't know how to. That level of a deep dive into Melee goes beyond my skill set. Something exciting coming up though is head TO of Rain, RJ, will be hosting the first ever doubles tournament having Fountain of Dreams legal. Go check it out on May 27th, being held in Seattle. Be sure to be on the lookout for any updates regarding this on SEA_Rain on Twitter. My video was enough for him to greenlight this idea. It all starts with one tournament giving it a go. Don't believe me? Go play Fountain of Dreams doubles yourself and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Do you think Fountain of Dreams should be legal in doubles? Was my testing legitimate enough? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the Patreon. I'll have lots of behind the scenes for how this video was made. I love doubles and did my best making a video where people will talk about it. It's not just a side event. But very last thing, I gotta ask it. It's not only for the fans, it's for me because I'm a huge doubles fan. I've been watching you guys for years. Are we ever going to see PewFat at another tournament?
Under the right circumstances, like time and place, and not just being a one-off tournament like how I did this past weekend, yes.